Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Sony A6500, priced at a little under $1,400 US. You're looking at, in my opinion, one of the most impressive mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras ever made. Now, the A6300 does come under the price point here at roughly $1,400 US, at a little over $1,000. But what you're getting for that price difference is significant, and the fact that Sony does not sell this camera as a kit version also speaks to the consumer that they're reaching out to, and that's someone that really desired more from the APS-C-based E-mount lineup of bodies, and that's exactly what the A6500 promises. So before I get this out of the box, let's take a look at the packaging. In my opinion, this is very much a baby version of the A7R Mark II. Granted, it's not a full-frame camera, we all know that, but a return to Sony's roots in that we do have very small form factor, but with very little compromise when it comes to performance. We've got that 24.2 megapixel sensor, again, APS-C, as well as a fantastic autofocus system, 425 points of phase detection with over, I believe, 160 points of contrast. And then here's one of the key elements of Sony's brand new lineup of cameras, both in the CyberShot realm as well as here in the E-mount side of things, interchangeable lens world, the buffer. We now have the ability to shoot over 300 images consecutively with that autofocus system. So these are two areas Sony's been trying to address, because if they're going to attract more and more prosumers and especially professionals, these are simply must-haves. That doesn't mean it addresses all of the issues that professionals desire, but remember, this is a $1,400 camera. I expect Sony will be showing us some of those real goodies over the course of this year, but for a lot more money, much like their G Master Series lenses. Another thing we've been waiting for, a touchscreen display. 5-axis image stabilization, arguably the biggest draw for this. That's what the A6300 is missing. You have high frequency, frame rate recording, anywhere from 1 to 120 frames for quick or slow motion is what I should really say. But, the only knock I can ascribe to this camera before getting it out of the box is simply that it does not have a new battery type. We haven't seen a change in terms of, its actual SD card slot, or maybe plural slots. But remember, it's a $1,400 camera, so enough said. It makes sense that you're only going to get so much. And as far as what Sony is delivering on this product, there's nothing else like it. So let me get that paperwork out of the way. And again, I feel this is a return to the roots of the E-mount, because even though Sony's gone after professional customers with their full-frame A7R, A7R Mark II, or the A7 line, I should say, A7R Mark II, A7S Mark II, which are clearly going to be replaced, I think, soon. Start off with an empty bag. Here we are back again to, as I've mentioned, a lot of power in a small package, which was originally what the E-mount was meant to be. Just grew into a much bigger beast when the competition fell asleep and Sony kept rolling. So we've got the same battery type. This is something I'd love to see change, but this is me being, critical, of course, to a product that I've already given enough praise. A micro USB cable for charging that battery. You will be charging it on board. There is no actual external or off-body charger for this. You'll have to buy a third-party one if you want. The USB wall adapter right there for that cable that you'll be connecting to the body of the camera. Your alpha strap, Sony, again, still sticking with their roots. And that was part of the reason they brought the E-mount, which used to be NEX, into the alpha realm. And here's what was in that missing plastic, our iCup. So without further ado, everything's out of the box. You've waited 4 minutes plus. Let's see what the A6500 looks like. And I wish I had other cameras to share with you right now. I don't, but I will soon, for those of you unaware. Well, this thing's a little bit beefy, I have to say already. My home was destroyed along with all my gear, so I'm working with what I've got. So here it is, the A6500. Backside, remember now that 3-inch screen is now a touch screen. You can shift focus with it. This is something everyone who's ever owned an E-mount camera since the days, especially when they did have touch screens, was hoping would come back. I'm hoping the experience has improved, and I think it will have. We have a great electronic viewfinder, OLED, of course, 120 frames per second in that bad boy, which is critical. Pretty much the same layout of buttons that you'd find across the E-mount. I was surprised by the build quality because the A6300 is made very well, but this camera just, I can already tell, feels a little bit more robust, a little bit more solid. We have obviously a hot shoe right here, two dials at the top, one of course for all the different modes on the camera, and then programmable, one of many programmable, this isn't a button, this is a dial, but among the many that are on here, I think there are 9 configurable buttons, so customization is not going to be an issue with this. The menu system, as far as I know, has not been revamped on this, but still a lot of promise. Of course, your shutter button right here, on and off switch, nothing new about that. The front end, all the same look and feel that you had with the A6300, although it seems like the grip is slightly larger. I might be wrong about that. Let's take a peek at the sensor. Should be nice and clean. Just came from the factory. And again, this is all about, do you want a camera in this form factor that literally can do everything, pretty much. And there isn't a competitor right now, especially with a lens lineup like Sony natively with the E-mount, let alone one that can brag or boast the capability of using alternatives, third-party glass. And because of the 5-axis image stabilization here, you're going to be able to use those lenses even if they don't have a stabilization, with a compatible adapter. NFC, of course, on board, Wi-Fi on board. I'm hoping the Wi-Fi, chipset has changed. I'm guessing it probably hasn't. In terms of battery life, this is pretty close to what previous gens have had to offer. So again, not expecting much there. So that means somewhere under 400 shots or maybe a little more. I'll have to test it. And that's strictly shooting stills. If you're going to mix still and video, you're in a different world. Tripod mount right there at the bottom. And again, I'm just impressed with the feel, the quality of the build here. It's not a shock to me, but it seems Sony did a fairly good job. On the left side of the camera, besides having a little speaker port here, you can see the 3 pinholes. Nothing new there. We have our line out and one line in. The multifunction port obviously being micro USB, but then next to that we have HDMI output, which is clean completely. You can put that to a recorder. So this is, really something a professional could use. Granted, again, a pro on a budget, but also a pro who would enjoy convenience. And then you do have a line in for a microphone. And beyond that, that's pretty much it. We're looking at a camera that, again, as I mentioned, I think a lot of people had hoped the A6300 would have all of these features. Sony saw the A6500 as that opportunity to answer that desire. And that's one of the reasons Sony continues to succeed in DI, is that whether it's just a general acknowledgement of customer feedback, the touchscreen being a major one, the autofocus being a major one, the 5-axis image stabilization, the buffer cap now going up to over 300 shots. I mean, you're shooting for 30 plus seconds, 11 frames per second. Of course, you've got RAW 14-bit. That's no shocker. That's not a groundbreaker. But all of these things, that slow motion, quick motion function, 1 to 120 frames per second, these are things that we simply did not have access to in the consumer market at a price anywhere near this. And now, whether, again, you're sticking with affordable E-mount glass that's APS-C based or going for FE full frame glass, I really don't see a downside to this camera, especially if the 5-axis stabilization is anything like that of the A7R Mark II, which I expect it to be. Of course, balance issues because of the size of the body in relation to the glass will still be relevant, tangible to most of you out there. But the features here, when it comes to video grading, you've got it. That 5-axis gives you 5-stop gain on this camera. I mean, low light sensitivity is improved. So there's a lot. And there's even been a firmware update already for this in the RX 100. No shock there. But a lot to like. Of course, if I find out things that aren't of my liking, I'm going to report that to all of you. In the meantime, this is the camera to be after right now. If you're thinking about the A6300 versus the 6500, it's not a matter of whether you're just interested in still or video. This is the better choice. And when it comes to glass, I always recommend you go with FE glass if you ever think you're going to flirt with a full-frame camera. It's just, future-proofing your gear, and in some instances, getting you better glass for the same money at any rate, since most of the Zeiss glass in Sony's lineup is roughly the same. It's very close, at least, retail when it comes to full-frame or APS-C E-mount lenses these days. That's in the normal, limits of 24 to 70 wide-angle stuff. They're all around $1,000 either way. But hope you all enjoyed the unboxing and, of course, the commentary. I'm really excited about this camera. That's part of the reason this unboxing is longer than a usual one, and that's because the A6500 is really, as far as the DI world right now, an unusual product in that it offers pretty much everything you could want in a camera that's tiny compared to even an A7R Mark II. And at a cost that's far more palatable. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.